Hello everyone and welcome to TableTakes presented by Gen Con. I am the Mike Robles, joined this week by Derek, Emma, and Christian. Hello folks.
Howdy. Hey there.
Hey.
Fake Tifa, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
All right, good.
Looking good.
I like magic.
Yeah.
And games about food.
Yep, magic and food.
And cute things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cute magic food things.
Yes.
Although if there's big boxes this week, I don't think this Tifa will fit in them.
Bigger boxes.
Bigger boxes. Which actually
We are going to be talking about it.
we got
But
some
wait,
bigger boxes.
Yeah.
we'll get there, guys. Don't
Some
worry.
stuff happening. All right. Tifa is not with us because she's over at Emerald City Comic Con doing her thing over there.
Which is where half of us are heading right after the show.
right after
Yeah.
the show, we're peacing out and go to Emerald
Booth
City Comic Con.
1704, and we have a Gamers Live show at 4 p.m. Sci-Fi Wire. You can check that out.
Oh, you guys are going to be on the Wire live stream?
Oh,
That's
yeah, yeah.
awesome.
Nice.
Rad. All right, cool.
Congrats.
That's awesome, yeah. Let's jump into some headlines. Emma, welcome back from Gamma. Emma, you were at Gamma this week.
I was at Gamma.
Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy Gamma.
Did you have a good time?
It was fantastic. It was Reno. We were in a casino resort thing. I did not see the sun. They have the windows blanked
They make
out.
sure you can't.
So you
I
have,
used to live there.
Yeah.
All the buildings are like that if they're casinos.
you have no idea what time of day or night it is.
No.
Yeah.
But you're gaming like 99.9% of the time.
But it's a perfect 72 degrees at all times.
Yeah. No, it was freezing. It was snowing. I don't know what sort of like nexus we'd
I meant
entered
in the
into.
casino. I'm
Oh,
pretty sure it
yeah.
wasn't snowing.
That would be a really cool casino.
Yes, no, I would go there.
Yeah. But for those of you who don't know, GAMA is the Game Manufacturers Association. Well, that's what GAMA stands for. The GAMA Trade Show happens every year in Reno, and it's more of an industry event.
Yeah.
Like
so if
Origins
you're like,
used to be.
yeah. So if you're like, I wanted to go to GAMA, I wanted to game. I live in Reno. You actually have to apply to be part of the organization for game designers, some game designers, but mostly for retailers and distributors. And publishers to connect and rub elbows.
So it's a chance for like
Do the
publishers.
biz.
Yeah, it's a chance for publishers to tell the distributors and retailers these are the new games that are coming out over the next several months. Here's why you should be excited about them and why you expect them to be successful.
Yeah.
So you should order them.
Yeah. So over the last few weeks, you've heard us talk about Toy Fair announcements. Now for the next few weeks, Gamma announcements will be coming out. We talk about Gamma a lot, including Games Workshop had some news from Gamma, and they are going to start having Kill Team expanded to include Terminators and other elite units from someone that does not play Warhammer. Why don't I let one of you guys tell me about what this means? What does this mean for this?
Well, I'm way jazzed because it means that Terminators will have a use now in the game. So, like, I'm very excited because the Terminators just look awesome, but all the factions have some kind of elite thing. And the way that they've kind of been approaching Kill Team is that you buy Kill Team and it's like a small squad of like troops, but they've come out with an expansion for Commanders, they've come out with an expansion for Arena, a couple different ones. So it looks like what they're doing is, this is kind of the core simple game. But if you want to play with leaders, you can bring these guys. If you want to play with like special elite units who are harder to kill, you can buy this expansion and kind of bolt that on. Almost creating kind of a full spectrum from that small squad experience up to, after you've bought all of these things, you've kind of reached a point where you can field a full 40K army if you want to go play in that direction.
Nice.
Because you've had enough experience skirmishing smaller and building upon that.
Yep.
Time to go patent.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I'm all excited because Terminators look awesome.
And we mentioned Kill Teams on the stream before, which is great. So now I like that they're sort of doing the, I guess the slow burn, the slow get you in there to help you learn and get you more involved with that.
Yeah, they did have a few other announcements too. Blackstone Fortress, which is like an adventure game that they put out, it uses the Warhammer Quest system. We had talked about it before. They've got a new expansion out that adds leaders and commanders for the Trader Guard. So you can get this big, like half ogre kind of guy who's worked by chaos, or a commissar, like a officer who's been turned to chaos.
Nice.
And then Sigmar had a bunch of announcements too. There was a teaser for Forbidden Power, which I will admit I'm not a Sigmar player, so I'm not sure exactly what it means. But they talked about how it was going to be for all Sigmar players.
And that's pre-chaos, right?
No, so Sigmar is like the reboot of Warhammer Fantasy.
Oh,
so basically the
Yeah.
end of the world came, and Sigmar is in the end of the world, so it's weird. You can travel to different realms, and there's different. It's a little crazier.
Crazier
It's a
than
little. It's a little. What I think is it's more high fantasy.
Yeah.
Is
Okay.
what it is.
Yeah.
It's a little more traveling to different worlds, whereas
Yeah.
Warhammer Fantasy was classic for being low.
I play the card game on my phone, the Sigmar card game, and it's definitely lots of fantasy tropes in that. It's just also really some really cool artwork. So That's neat.
Yep. So Forbidden Power appears, I think, to be a pretty big expansion for the game, and it talks about how hidden powers are going to be returning or something like that. So people who are really invested in the lore probably have a better idea of what's coming down the pipe. But they have also got a couple other Sigmar expansions. There's Warcry, which on the kill team kind of level seems to be the same thing.
Basically, yeah.
Yep, it's like a skirmish match thing. I think they've announced like 6.
The boxes are the same size.
Yep,
the artwork's different, but yeah, it looks pretty much the
I
same.
think they've announced like 6 factions. I don't know if they've announced those yet.
Oh my gosh, Star Priest.
You could have your
Oh,
Star
you're talking
Priest.
about characters in the game. Okay,
Yes.
good.
Skinks.
I've done this before,
Yeah.
I feel.
Then the other piece of news, shockingly enough, Munchkin Age of Sigmar.
Which we were discussing before the stream started. I was like, oh, wow, really? That's so weird. And they were like, well, but it's not because there's Munchkin everything.
Yeah, all Munchkin everything. Although a lot of them are more generic as opposed to specific licensed properties.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
not that they don't do the licensed properties thing, but I
And
like
Munchkin Nightmare Before Christmas. So there's.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It just seemed like such an interesting crossover,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Like,
Steve Jackson, you're the gerpsiest.
Well, I mean, Munchkin itself is already, pretty fantasy-esque, so it kind of makes sense. It's like, now you just get to play Munchkin with, I'm hoping, amazing artwork.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that would be, I would play Munchkin again if I got to stare at beautiful cards the whole time.
little partially sentient snails.
I've always
and
liked
mushrooms.
the Munchkin artwork. It makes me very happy.
Yeah.
I think the Munchkin artwork and the humor has really been the draw to that game.
Yeah.
Which leads me to say that, like, for me to start playing Warhammer, it's going to need significantly cuter characters.
Allow me to introduce you to Nurglings and the warm embrace of Papa Nurgle.
I want
Papa
very much to
Nurgle.
see these Nurglings.
Is that your LARP character, Papa Nurgle?
Yep, sure.
Are we there yet, Papa Nurgle? Not far now. Little chaos-infused bunnies.
It's like the idea of you talking about Munchkin being humorous and cutesy, and then like Age of Sigmar's gonna come in and just ruin all of that.
Yep.
It's gonna be like this is serious Munchkin.
Super grimdark.
Yeah, but I think that they're going to lean into that. You know? I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like they're going to have a lot of like grim dark items that have very,
Because I think they did a Munchkin
Dark
Warhammer
humor.
40K. I'm pretty sure that came out last year.
even if it didn't. I mean, I feel like I've
Yeah.
seen it now.
Yeah.
I'm seeing some nods out
You've
there.
seen it in
Yes.
your head.
Yes.
It's like,
Jenny,
oh,
yes.
All right, rad. So
Will
there you
knows.
go. There you go.
Before we move off of minis, though, don't forget the
right.
Blood Bowl.
Blood Bowl. Yeah. Tell us about what's coming down with Blood Bowl. Blood Bowl, of course.
Blood Bowl.
Blood Bowl is it's tactical football.
So it's
Yeah.
football. It's
Football
football with
minis.
orcs. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Tactical combat football.
If you ever played Mutant League football back in the day and you wanted, to be like, I would do this in real life. That's what Blood Bowl is.
There's a Nurgle team.
There's, well, to me,
Man,
it's like
I'm gonna get my cuteness.
you have your skirmish, your war, your combat, right? And it's like, but also you can score a goal, like just like stick soccer or football or whatever
Yeah.
right in the middle of
Hey,
it.
points count, and it's football.
But I think this new expansion that's coming out, well, it's for the Halflings. So Halflings are already in the game,
And
but it's
cute,
a
I'll
special,
buy it.
yes.
I sent a picture to my wife, and her reaction was, "Why are toddlers playing football?"
It's got like a little hat. So it's got the flavor of a halfling from like a non-infringing hobbit. So very much in that sphere. But it's got like a pot for a hat, but with spikes
That's
on it,
hilarious.
right? And
Are they wearing cleats? I'm just curious. Like, if
oh my
it's-
gosh, I forget.
I don't
They had-
recall their footwear.
I
They might not have
remember
any.
probably
the
don't.
uniform came up to here, and it was just the belly because their uniforms don't fit apparently. And I just loved reading the description of the halflings in this game. They're like, they're not good at all. They're really bad at this game. Like they're playing like toddlers playing actual real football.
Against
playing
orcs.
Against
murder,
orcs, yeah.
murder football.
As I say, they're the
Murder
Oakland
football.
Raiders of Blood Bowl.
But-
No, the Oakland Raiders actually like hit people really hard.
No, their fans hit people really hard.
I'm sorry, I get that confused.
And they don't get any buffs or anything. You're like, oh, they're small. Maybe they're like really stealthy or fast. They're just
They get
bad.
nothing.
Yeah.
You get nothing.
I kind of want
There you
to
go.
play them just because, they're like, you're just gonna lose this game.
No,
I'm like,
all
nobody's gonna be really.
All you have to do is win once, though, and you can just retire. You're like,
Yeah.
"I
I'm
I'm pretty
did
sure
it,
it's a
though.
game
I
where
won."
you're allowed to like grab the receiver and throw him for a touchdown. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
mean-
I feel like maybe this is the army you buy when your friend has that. You've been playing Blood Bowl, and they've just been winning and winning and winning,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Look, happy birthday!
Yeah.
You have to play this army now."
Oh, they also can't catch. So they're not even good at like catching the ball. So.
But aren't they awesome at throwing? Isn't that like a halfling thing?
I don't know.
You know, according to D&D and Pathfinder.
They're-
I think in a sling, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like
so we need to find some oblong football sling
Yeah.
to get these halflings a leg up.
They're just awesome at throwing parties.
Yeah.
That's what it is. All right, speaking of
After
parties.
party would be great.
Speaking of parties, Cabinet's going to launch a game line because Conan,
Okay, sure.
the barbarian,
Sure.
who knows how to throw a party.
That's true. All right, you did get there
it-
with the,
I got there.
the
Conan,
transition.
so they're
I
going to
feel
do
like Conan knows how to attend a party.
Yeah.
Or crash a party.
or
Be
crash
the
a party.
center of the party.
Conan knows how to party.
Yeah.
So they're going to be launching some games under the Perilous World branding. It's going to be a Gen Con release. 2 games from Conan, the Barbarian. I always got to say the full thing. 'Cause I feel like I don't do it justice if I don't say Conan the Barbarian.
And
The first
how
one,
else will anyone know which Conan you're talking
that's
about?
true. Or O'Brien.
Yep.
They're going to do. It's
Yeah.
going to be.
Or
I
Conan the
misread
Librarian.
this.
Different in
Yeah.
how you say them, though, because,
Yeah.
you know, you say Conan when you're talking about Conan O'Brien, and you say Conan when you're talking about Conan.
Conan.
All right. Well,
Conan.
first off, we've got Conan.
There you go.
And,
Yep.
Tower of the Elephant.
Put some gravel in your voice.
Yeah. Board game designed by Room 17, and we don't know much about this, but in my head, I'm hoping it's just like the scene from Dumbo, which you got to stack elephants as high as possible.
That seems like a good way to go.
Just theory craft this, stacking the elephants.
That's what it is.
I don't know too much about. Are elephants a big thing in Conan?
Oh yeah, I mean it's
Sure.
Sure.
I mean, you know, bad guys ride around on them.
I mean,
Okay,
it's
yeah.
pulp, sword and sorcery, sword and sandals fantasy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Or maybe it's like a deep metaphorical, like existential.
What? There's elephants all the way down.
Yeah.
Elephants are about as common as people without pants.
which is a lot. In,
Which is
in
pretty
the
much
Conan
all. Yeah,
universe,
this is
'cause
the
no-
only animals.
So it's
in those
probably good they
stories
went
like
with
that.
Tower of Elephants instead of Tower of No Pants.
Where were you going? I was about to
Yeah.
keep writing this and be like, all right.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think we want to go play that game.
I don't think it's going to make it to the second draft, folks.
Speaking of no pants, there's also Conan Serpent's Bluff, which is coming out. Got
And,
that.
and that's based on the game.
And
right?
so this is going to be sort of similar to the to other games like Red Dragon Inn or like the solo game that came
Yeah,
out.
Red-
Like this is a game that would be played by Conan and his fellow barbarians
Like saying
in the
Gwent.
So
world.
it's,
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Sumerian Quidditch.
yeah.
Yeah.
that's what it is. But it's gonna be designed by Monster Fight Club, who we've mentioned before in the studio. Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah, so
really,
we don't have a whole lot of details on that one
Yeah.
either. But I think the interview that we saw at did have that it's a game Conan would play kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you know,
It's a game that he did play in one of the comics.
so Three Dragon Ante, was a very very fun game that was in the D&D universe. So hopefully this might be a similar kind of idea.
just probably with a lot more murder. I think at the end of every game they got to murder whoever you're playing.
Yeah.
Because you don't trust them anymore.
I don't
So
think
it's
you'll be able
like-
to play very long then if you do
You-
that.
Not at all.
You get all the points, but then you have the murder phase, and whoever gets murdered,
There's only
the
one-
points
there's-
don't matter.
You have to basically crush your enemy and then see them driven before you.
There you go. There we go. So look for those
So on.
at some point. ICV2 actually has a longer interview that you guys can watch. But there's also Mutant Chronicles: Siege of the Citadel.
And we've been talking about that Mutant Chronicles a
Yeah,
whole bunch.
yeah.
Whole bunch.
I'm glad that they're moving forward with more stuff from Mutant Chronicles.
Well, this one apparently was on Kickstarter and raised like $600,000, so it was very popular. It's from Modiphius, but apparently this is going to be kind of putting it into trade now or into the hobby store, so you can just go buy it in the store.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm glad.
Because you don't always, I mean, that's a good thing with Kickstarters. Some people say, like they do, like, oh, you got to back it now, you know, it's
Yeah.
like really, it's the thing. But some Kickstarters, you know, they don't always come to retail because retail has a lot of hoops to jump through.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that.
Yep.
Yay, distribution.
Speaking of retail,
So yeah, speaking of retail, since they're speaking
Yeah.
of hoops to jump through, free RPG Day.
Wait a minute. Are you psychically like figuring out what his segues are
Yeah.
going to be now?
I got to predict them.
Segway tag
stop
team.
it.
I will play this game with you.
I'll write it on a piece of paper before you
is-
say it and reveal it.
Speaking of hoops to jump through,
Oh.
free RPG Day was recently because there's a lot of hoops you got to jump through
Sure,
when you
sure.
acquire a company. and Free RPG Day was just recently acquired by Gaming Days LLC.
Well, wait. How did the whole day get bought by this small LLC?
And that's what
Is
I'm
it on the
trying to-
calendar now? Is
It's
that
like it's an official thing.
It's
now.
an
touch
official
the
day.
government?
The hashtag National Free RPG Day. So Free RPG Day, for those who don't know, it's kind of like Free Comic Book Day. You can go to your friendly local game store.
It's exactly like Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah.
Except you're not going to get comics.
Right.
You're
No,
gonna get-
you just basically they're taking the exact same model and applying it to RPGs,
It's like exactly the same,
Except-
but a little bit
but with a different product.
Yeah.
You can go into your friendly local game store and grab supplements, and that can be anything from dice, pre-printed scenarios, quick start scenarios, adventures for whatever game you're playing. A lot of stores will host events and will run you through some of these.
Maybe those little mini zine RPGs.
Yeah,
They throw-
yeah,
they
we'll
throw
get some
that kind of
zine
stuff in there.
quests
Yeah.
that are getting pushed out. I mean, there's a ton. It's one of those things where if you're big in RPGs, you want to go to Free RPG Day because you can get a ton of stuff.
There's
They
also
usually include some kind of like collectible die or whatever
oh yeah,
that goes
that's,
with the whole
I'm there
set.
for the dice.
Yeah, I usually am too.
But there's also, you would think for something being free, it's like, oh, it's bottom of the barrel, whatever. Like, this is
No,
really
there's-
good stuff,
yeah.
very popular stuff. Like, we've had people come to mocks before, and they've, like, at the beginning of the day, swarmed
Yeah.
for
Oh, yeah.
specific things that have been hyped up, and this is the only way that you can get some of those
I mean,
things.
I know personally on Free RPG that there's times when it's been like, you call one store,
Yeah.
do you have this
Oh,
thing
yeah.
left?
Yeah.
If not, okay, well, I'm going to go
Yep.
to other stores. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the idea from the store's perspective is they buy into this program and they get all this free material that is supposed to bring people into the store
That's
who
right.
wouldn't otherwise come.
Yeah.
And it also gives a lot of those folks an entry point to begin experiencing some of these games because a lot of RPGs have a high kind of initial buy-in cost.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is a little bit of a, here's a quick start, some rules, some pre-generated characters, and an adventure. If you like it, the rule book's over there.
Yeah, and if it works, I mean, even if it works half as well as it did for comic books, because it helped when Free Comic Book Day happened, really kind of helped revitalize that retail industry
Yeah.
Yeah.
that is, again, dying. But it wasn't there for a while because of Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah.
I think they can do the same thing with RPGs, which are on the upswing instead of,
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting.
It's only good.
The company that bought Free RPG Day seems to be founded by 3 retailers. So it's
Yeah.
interesting that the retailers, or at least some retailers, seem to think, this is great. It's a wonderful idea. We want to take it to the next level.
How do we
so
make
they
it
formed
better?
this company and they acquired the kind of program. So it'll be very interesting to see where they take it because they're clearly going to be coming from a retailer perspective.
And the founder of Free RPG Day is actually still going to be there and is going to
Yeah.
advise and sort of consult with them as they continue to grow this. I think it's neat. I've participated in Free RPG Day a couple times, not nearly as much. Free Comic Book Day for my family is an entire day.
Yeah.
We plan
It's a-
out
it's a
which
family
stores
event.
we're going to go to, and we
Nice.
spend at least 4 to 5 hours driving to different stores to get comic books, and it's rad.
Well, maybe Free RPG Day will be like that for you.
Wouldn't
as
that
well.
be
think
cool,
I
though?
think
A
it
day
might,
where you
though.
just go out with your friends and family and go from different
Yeah.
gaming stores? I mean, I'd do that.
That's what I was going to
It's
say.
like a store crawl, like a pub crawl,
That's,
right?
that's
But
the best
for-
date ever.
Yeah.
the RPG crawl, there where you get your free stuff. So, speaking of free stuff, it's not free. I got nothing. I got nothing with the next one.
Trying to shoot.
Oh wait, no, here we go. Speaking of a ton of stuff,
Okay, all right.
a ton of stuff. Book of Dragons is going to launch. You're going to launch a giant thing, and this giant thing is going to have 25 different games in one box.
But not giant as in physically giant, because it's only the 40 cards, so all of
it's
these...
a normal size box.
Yeah.
This is 25 games. This is going to be a giant. This is going to be a giant box. I feel like
I don't think Tifa's going to fit in this box.
she might. She might. Don't know why to find out. But okay, but this is going to be to me giant. Like that's 25 games in a box.
Yeah.
That's a lot of games.
Yeah.
Yep. But it's all
But
played.
that can be the size of a ring box with 5 dice in it.
Well,
Those
because how
5
many
dice are
dice
25.
game are
And
there?
then a
Yeah.
folded up piece of paper in the lid. 25 games right
Yeah.
here.
I actually
5 of
have
them are Yahtzee.
I have. My dad got me that for Christmas one year. It was a little thing of dice with a slip inside, and here's 20 different games you can play with dice.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I should have been a game designer.
Well, so this idea of the cards limited components. So it's not a game where I haven't actually looked at 504 or Pyramid, but I'm pretty sure it's a lot of stuff, like a lot of different stuff, and you use different portions. But with this one, with only 40 cards, like each game is going to use like probably a good portion of that. So to have this many games come out of this space.
The other interesting thing too is that they seem to have divided the games into some categories.
Yeah.
So,
Right,
so
strategy games.
yeah, so there's 25 different games, but 13 of them are family style. So
Yeah.
they might be more like traditional kind of card games.
And that's where they serve the whole game to the whole table at
Yeah.
the same time, and everybody just picks off the plate, right?
Yep. There's 12 different strategy games, which are probably going to be more like the kind of hardcore hobbyist. But then there's also 10 like public domain games that are probably just games that you would play with like a normal-ish deck of cards.
Right, yeah,
that
like
they've adapted
like
to this
Hearts
format.
or something.
Yeah, like the 40,
Yeah.
like the box version of Old Maid or whatever.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But
Yeah.
so all these cards are like tarot sized. I think they all have really cool dragon art on them. So if you want a game that's going to give you a lot of breadth, or product that's going to give you a lot of breadth of games to play, this is something to check out. And it's another one that was on Kickstarter and had raised like $43,000.
Yeah,
I
that's
think.
a lot of money.
Yeah.
They raised quite a bit.
There's a bunch of different designers on it too. I realized.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not just all from one
It's
mind.
not all just one guy
The
coming up with 25
science
games.
of
There's
the-
several.
Industry. I think it's an interesting challenge. Like we had talked a little bit before the show about. I think the one thing about a bunch of games in one box, the same with any bunch of games, any collection of games, you as a person will like some better and like some not as good. I'm not going to say some will be better and worse objectively, but as me, it's like, oh, I played this one, it wasn't as fun. I played this one, it was as fun. So I think it takes. Or this one was super fun. I think it takes a certain attitude to approach it, because some people be like, oh, some games are just going to be not as good as other ones,
Right,
or
yeah.
not as fun. So it's a weird
But the
space.
math is in your favor. That
Yeah.
even if half the games you just don't like,
Yeah.
you've still got another 15 games
15 games for the price of one, presumably.
Right.
Yeah.
in one giant or not box.
Yeah. one box of disputable size.
There you go. Coming from the op, this is our weekly Talisman plug. Talisman, another Talisman game coming out.
Talisman Games, give me my money.
Actually, Talisman Games, I will give you my address if you send me this, because Batman the Supervillains edition of Talisman, and I've said this before, I think Batman has some of the coolest villains.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really unique villains in Batman, a lot of
Like
tragic...
Calendar Man.
All right, I mean, Condiment Man, Condiment King.
Are these
Egghead.
real things?
These are
'Cause
real.
Yeah.
Calendar Man is a real
Yeah.
guy. Condiment King is actually a real guy. Egghead is an actual real guy. But
The Kite is like my
There-
all-time
like,
favorite villain from Batman.
there's a big spectrum.
There's a big spectrum.
How many villains are there?
There are
There's a
lots.
really big spectrum.
Yeah, the Rogues Gallery for Batman is absurd. It's not Spider-Man bad, but it's way up there.
If you actually watch Lego Batman, he lists almost every single one, and
Yeah.
they're all real that he lists.
Oh my
And-
gosh. I
and-
gotta
And
go back
none
and
of
watch
them are
that
as
again.
cool as the Kite.
The way this works, this is the Talisman format, but it's a bunch of villains trying to escape Arkham Asylum, which we talked about before. Derek doesn't even make sense that they want to escape the mental institution. I think it makes perfect sense because,
But they
think
need
it's-
help.
yeah.
They need help. If they leave early, they're not going to get the mental health
I mean,
help that they need. That's why they're in an asylum.
is
not a prison.
Arkham Asylum in particular, though, is this really a place where people go to get better?
Yeah.
I don't
I
think
was
that they're
about to
really up
say.
to the standard.
I think it's
I don't feel
supposed
like-
to be.
I think Asylum's a little bit of a misnomer.
I don't
in
feel
this
like it's
situation.
properly licensed or inspected by the state.
Yeah.
Arkham Asylum is legit a jail where they keep. That's just where they keep the crazies. All right. And
Yeah.
the thing about this, and I saw some of the artworks, and the artwork looks awesome. I saw as they had like the picture of the Harley card, the box art looked really cool, and I was like, between Kingdom Hearts Talisman and
Yep.
Batman Talisman, I'm in. I'm gonna start riding this Talisman train all the way
Talisman
home.
train. Nice.
That's what's gonna happen.
You're going to be a talisman.
Yes.
Oh gosh, look at the time. I need to go get my dignity back.
Speaking of dignity, we've got lanterns. Lanterns are
Dignified
they're
lanterns.
dignified. Yeah, they're posh. They're dignified.
Well, these particular lanterns from the Lanterns game, I would say, are definitely
Yes.
up there.
Did we get that turned off? Good. Sorry about that. If you guys were hearing that rumble all of a sudden, the air conditioner turned on because it's
skipped
nice and warm
breakfast.
in here.
Yeah.
Our show was just too hot.
It was
Yeah.
too hot. These are the hottest takes. I'm telling you, the hottest takes.
At this table.
at this table. Lanterns is the tile placing game or tile laying game.
Yeah.
Very, very pretty game.
It's very nice. It's very nice. But they're doing a roll and write called Lights in the Sky.
I'm excited. So the core thing about this that is a little sad, like what I really like about Lanterns is the absolutely unique mechanic where when you place down a tile, you're giving everyone else stuff. So it's a very generous game, but it makes it tricky, you know? So, because if I was just putting a thing and I get a thing and then you put a thing and you get a thing, it would be a very basic, kind of boring game. But because you're like, oh, I'm going to give you red, you're going to get just the thing you need for this. I can't play this tile, even though it would be really good for me. So there's a lot of interesting choices
That's
there.
part of what makes a great game, though,
Yeah.
I think, is like having to make those choices and actually lay out a strategy.
So I'm interested. So this game, because it's dice, it won't have that directional layout aspect to it, but I'll be using the same dice. So I'm excited to see how they're going to embody that.
Maybe they figured out how to capture it. You know?
Yeah.
Maybe it's something where you do your thing, and then it somehow affects the people who are sitting next to you, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or the way the dice are pointing, like that could be interesting.
I'm interested to at least take a look at it. It's got a proven designer that has had success in the past, so it's probably worth taking a look at, especially if the original is as good as you say.
Dice, and like the dice are gorgeous too, because they just have the lanterns on them. So
So cool.
yeah.
I like when a company comes out and puts unique dice set out there with like very unique designs, like the Star Wars RPG.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a try. All right. I need to stop hating.
You need to stop being a renegade.
I can't.
Speaking of Renegade Games released an RPG.
My first Twitch show was called Renegades too.
Oh, was it really? Even better. Even better. I didn't
Triple
realize
segue.
that. Got there. Renegade Games is releasing an RPG for the WizKids Wordlings. What are Wordlings?
So they're these tiny little miniatures. They're miniatures of like adolescent, like child adventurers.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like, you know, they're a fighter, but like they're 12, and they have a super adorable dragon pet.
Yeah.
And they go play Blood Bowl?
They go beat up the halflings.
So these 12-year-old fighters, are they trying to like overthrow their government or a warlord or something? Because I've heard of this.
They
This
just
is
want
Congo,
to stay up
right?
late and watch and eat pizza.
Well, now you're going to play an adventure with them.
Ah.
So you decide what they're going to go do.
Yeah, they can do anything.
So what this is basically another RPG, but focused down towards younger players, a little bit like a couple of the other ones we've talked about in the past. No Thank You Evil and
Yeah, so you'll be playing kids, probably with pets, going on adventures, using D&D 5th edition rules.
and a special miniature.
Yep. So there'll be a special miniature that tells you exactly what your kid looks like, probably. And I think the game.
I know what my kid looks like.
Well, in this case,
In the game.
fantasy imagined kid.
The
But the miniatures line, I think, is having more minis and some monsters that are coming out in a couple months too. So by the time the RPG comes out, there'll be some more support for it. So if you liked things like Thornwatch, when this stuff originally came out, there was a little bit of a controversy about the relation between the two.
Yeah.
And they changed the name to Wordlings to separate it. But if you like that aesthetic of kids going and rescuing themselves, maybe like YA kind of fantasy a little bit more than
it's very popular
than epic high fantasy, then this is probably going to be a really good RPG for you.
And these, at least the ones, because they have the Warlings minis, like you can buy them and use them presumably in any adventure. They're painted, I think, which really is something that makes them stand out on the shelf. For those people who are still a little intimidated about getting into painting, I presume these are also going to be painted, all the things that come with that work with the set, so it's pretty cool.
Right. Also, it's designed by Elisa Teague, who we've mentioned on the show a bunch. He designed the Kingdom Hearts Talisman, so that's...
Do we have any other Talisman news? Because I want to get back to that.
I'm sure we do. But I mean, so this thing's gonna be awesome.
So these pets, they sound pretty adorable, right?
Yeah. Speaking of adorable, we have a new segment we're calling Emma's Cute Corner. Because Emma's got some cute games she wants to talk to us about.
I like cute things.
Who doesn't like cute things, really?
It's true.
Like,
I think Derek might not like cute. Oh no, I've seen
the
some
Nurgles,
cute things that he really likes.
The Nurgles, we just have different definitions of what is cute. Sometimes
It's all
it's got
relative.
like boils and pus coming out of them.
I don't think boils and pus are ever cute.
The Nurgle.
I'll help you out with that.
All right. Emma, what do you got for us?
Aquaporin Cove. So you might have heard of this before because it's actually a graphic novel created by Katie O'Neill, the same person who did the Tea Dragon Society graphic novel.
Absolutely adorable.
Yes.
The art,
Great art, yeah.
The art of Tea Dragon Society is fantastic.
So Renegade Games is doing this thing, partnering with Katie O'Neill to bring these worlds into the board game universe. Tea Dragon Society came out about a year ago, I think. It was like pretty straightforward, a little bit of a deck building element to it. Super fun, adorable, great game, did very well. So probably this Aquaporin Cove that's coming out is also going to do very well. This one is specifically, you are caring for these aquacorns, which if you don't know what an aquacorn is,
We're about to tell you.
it's like a seahorse, but like a horse, just in the sea. So not like it's kind of horse-like.
Like no flippers or anything?
No, I think it's got like a tail and then like hooves.
Like a mer horse thing.
It's a
It's
mer
a mer
horse.
horse, yeah.
See, I just imagine like a horse is at the bottom of the sea, being like,
But it's a mer
am I doing
unicorn.
Where are we walking?
yeah, how do I get down here?
You can lead a horse to
But they're,
air?
but they are very cute, and kind of the message of this game is like, this is to the graphic novels. They have a little bit. Katie in particular is like having a message in there. And this is about marine conservation.
Very
and
important right now, actually.
giving kids agency. So it's not this kind of thing like, oh, we're just kids, we can't really do anything. It's kind of the message of the story is to reach out to kids. Like,
Kids taking power.
yeah, like your parents aren't doing great with this whole conservation thing.
So, marine conservation
Yeah,
and kids taking power.
yeah.
So it's Greenpeace meets Lord of the Flies.
Basically,
But with cute
yes.
animals.
But with cute animals, yeah. But like cute little spin
Now
on
I'm just
it.
imagining a cute animal head on a spike outside the door.
Yeah.
I don't
course
think it's
you
the
would.
direction this goes.
I also think you don't know what Greenpeace
So
is.
they, so that was. It's been announced. They were big at Gamma, so that was one of the exciting ones to.
So did you get to play it, or
come
did
out
you
of that.
just
I
see
did
it?
not get a chance to play this one in particular. I did, however, get a chance to play Tiny Towns.
Tiny Towns. Tiny Towns sounds also adorable.
Yes, adorable. So it's kind of area control or like territory management, but you have your own board. So you're trying to manage it from yourself. The very interesting thing about this game, you have a 4x4 grid. Each turn, gameplay is super simple. Someone calls out a color cube. So it'll be like gray. Everyone takes a gray cube from the supply, puts it on this 4x4 grid. You can really shoot yourself in the foot because you're trying to make patterns graphically. So like a little Tetronimo Tetris style. So like a red one here, a blue one here, and a gray next to it. And then those like suck together and become a cottage that only takes up one space. So now those other spaces are freed up for future use. If you don't make any patterns, you will just have a bunch of cubes on your board and no points. So it's easy to potentially,
Just
not
look
do
like
your
a computer.
graphical. Yeah, just like,
Like,
but
not good
ideally,
at
you're going to like
games.
build your cottages, and there's a layout aspect to it. So it's like, oh, these need to be near the well, and there's a farm.
So you're building a town, basically. In that
Yes.
sense. Great. So
Yeah.
a tiny little town.
Just a tiny,
And what's the name of the game again? Tiny Towns?
Incredibly miniature villages.
I like it.
Yeah.
But it sounds kind of like it has some of that feeling of a roll and write,
Yeah.
where a bunch of people could be playing together.
Yeah.
Because they're all building their own thing from their own resources.
Like bingo.
Yeah.
Good!
Yeah.
And everybody.
Exactly. And the way they were doing it, which I'm not sure, because they had big, like 8.5 by 11 sheets where you're marking off your points. It did have that right element. I don't know if that was just for the show or if that's going to be in the box as well. But it could potentially be something that if you had enough bits for it, you could get a whole group playing.
It's
together.
very interesting to see how games have kind of expanded from the roll and write. Because
Yeah.
it feels like the aspect of roll and write that people love is that you're playing kind of with your own territory. So there's no direct like player messing up. There's no way that like it's not like Munchkin.
It's like you're
I
playing
can't go
against
in and-
yourself, racing to the end.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's kind
exactly.
of like puzzly in that sense. And it's the kind of thing that you can do. It's like, I guess, building a puzzle almost competitively in sort of a large room because hundreds of people could be playing at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to see people kind of take that element in a new direction.
Yeah, it's funny that it does have that bingo element. I
Yeah,
hadn't really
a lot
thought
of the roll
about
and write
that.
games do, and I was noticing that a couple weeks ago when I was
Yeah.
looking up different games.
Yeah, it also has, it made me think real quick of like a standardized test or something, because you do the thing and you're
Okay,
just sitting
tiles
there.
down, everyone. Everyone get your number 2 tile
Which
out.
is something people in general are not a big fan of. But that like taking it in a positive direction.
I learned how to
let's all
shade
just be-
by filling in those little dots.
do a little like hash map, like a little hex pattern. Do like little stars
Little
in your
cross-hatching.
bubble.
Figure out which side the light source is coming from. And
I presume you did well on these tests.
I don't
You-
know.
I just did it.
Those were back in school.
The other kind of I think last headline that we have is I think just happened like maybe yesterday or the day before is Gale Force 9 was showing off a preview of their reprint of the old Dune board game, which is very exciting for anybody who's a Dune fan or an old board game fan, basically. So Gale Force 9 had announced that they had the license for at least board and miniature games for Dune. I think we were talking about an RPG, and I couldn't recall if they had the license or somebody else does.
Right, but
Hopefully
somebody's
working on that. But Gale Force 9 in particular hadn't confirmed whether they had the right to republish the old game or they were making new ones. And I think this is the first time they've actually shown it. I think a preview was at Gamma or something like that.
Yeah.
But they are bringing back the old one.
And the old one is a classic. Like, it was a thing that people had to hunt down. There were print and plays online and stuff like that. And it's definitely kind of like a holy grail a lot of collectors have been trying to go after for a long time.
Well, are they going to do a restoration games thing with it, where they're going to update and tweak?
That was my question.
Or just
too.
like here is in its original
I
form?
don't know. I think the preview showed some of the art that the community had created after the original publication. But I don't know, because I think a lot of what Restoration Games has been doing is taking an old game and giving it a new theme and expanding it.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're doing that at all.
Yeah.
They wanted
being
to
great.
say Dune.
Yeah.
I don't know how much they're going to change or adjust the rules.
Yeah.
We don't have a whole lot of details. But it's just really exciting that they're bringing this very classic game back. And if you're the kind of person who likes the Game of Thrones board game, or you like games that are like a complicated, war game on the board, but then also have a lot of alliances, breaking alliances, forging alliances,
I love
betraying
that stuff,
people,
man. I do.
poisoning someone. Oh no, you played the counter poison, that kind of stuff. Then the Dude board game is going to be exactly what you want.
Okay,
It's
so
gonna take
poisoning
hours to
someone in
play.
the game, not poisoning someone to win the game.
Right.
Got it.
And then I see like Gale Force 9 is they make some really good high quality products, so I cannot wait for them to produce the Dune sandbox for kids.
And I hope they get. I really hope that they get the game out before the movie comes out, so they don't have to pay all the licensing fee for the
all the new
300
actors, yeah.
famous actors that they have in the
my
movie
gosh.
so
Looking
far.
so good.
But do you get to ride a giant sandworm?
Maybe in the sandbox.
In the
In
kids'
the
sandbox.
sandbox
kids'
version. I'm waiting for that version.
Yeah.
That
There
you
sounds...
The Arrakis playset.
Yeah.
Speaking of things looking so good, like that movie, we got Kickstarters to talk about.
Yeah.
So many Kickstarters. So many that it's on the
Starts.
iPad this week.
It is.
Kick
It is.
That's how
I even brought show and tell for one of them too.
Oh, I'll do bundles real quick first. No bundles.
There-
There we go.
Yeah, there's some continuing bundles, but nothing new and exciting.
No new bundles.
So the first Kickstarter, I kind of pitched this guys to you during the prep for the show, and you seemed a little confused. You ready?
Yeah.
You play Badass Grandmas.
Ugh, I love it.
It's
I'm so excited.
Obachan
That's,
Panic.
that's
Yeah.
literally my wife's D&D character.
So this is one of the
Nice.
Zine Quest ones, and it's you create a grandma, and she's a badass warrior.
Yeah.
And she maybe also likes knitting and cooking or something like that. But she's got like a handbag, and she pulls a weapon out and fights. And
Maybe the handbag is the weapon.
who
Yeah.
knows?
Maybe she throws her giant red hat.
No, yeah, my
Yeah.
grandma would have just a bunch of hardened, like a bunch of like old hard candy, and like
Yeah.
that's the
One
weapon.
of
But
those
it's,
originals, just
but they're all like stuck together, so it's one big ball. But you can only use it so many times because
Okay.
it keeps breaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured
Boomerang dentures would also be.
you're not gonna flip where there's originals in people's mouths and make them choke.
So,
So,
just a launch
so
hard candy at you.
it is a short zine.
Tastes so
It's powered
good.
by the apocalypse,
Not really.
so people are
Which
familiar
means
with
it's
that
quick
game.
to pick up and play all the way through. So awesome.
So this is basically make a colorful character, go have weird adventures.
Means it's probably also several playbooks with different kinds of grannies you can choose from.
Yes.
The next one is the Angel Evoking Tarot, and what I have brought is the creator's previous
Oh yeah, I
product.
didn't see the foil on the side of this.
Demon Possessed Tarot. So the Angel Evoking Tarot, I'm sorry, actually, Obachan
Yeah, I
Panic
think-
has minutes left.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think I only have 30 minutes left.
Definitely check that out.
So if you were excited about that, you go. Angel Evoking Tarot has 2 days remaining. Maybe take up some of the cards
what?
that you think
Yeah.
look good and kind of show them to the
I was
camera.
gonna put my
I
phone
just
out.
gonna
These ones
drop
look
them
great.
all.
Yeah.
These ones that I just dropped.
Boom. Oh my god.
So
How many? There's a lot of
Angel Evoking
demons.
Tarot is
This is the
a
demon
whole full
deck.
tarot.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
it's
demons in
using
it.
very, very classic
Ooh,
tarot
oh my
art.
gosh, that one's kind of cute. I like that.
This one looks like my Uncle Phil.
Yep. So it's using the very, very classic art for the angels. It's adding in a whole lot of different elements of occult symbolism and stuff like that. So if people like props, if people like those things, if people like to be confused by their demons, apparently.
Yeah.
Oh, and it also comes with a book of angelic magic, apparently, as well.
This
So
is
there's
a
lot
knight
of
with
real-
This one has
lion head
eye
riding a horse.
lasers. It's like an owl snake.
So the thing is,
With
when
eye lasers.
You
This is a
always,
naked man with an owl head.
you always forget when you look at like demons from modern movies. Like demons look scary. They're similar. If you look at like old art for what demons look like, they're weird as hell.
They are
Yeah.
weird.
Well, maybe
So
that's
this
what
is old weird as hell demons.
this is what used to scare people back in the day.
Yeah.
It was like something with a cat tail that's like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. Nowadays, you see someone with a cat tail,
Yeah, I would
and that's just a
absolutely run from a
Tuesday.
naked man on a horse with an owl head.
See someone walking around with a
Comic-Con
cat
is
tail,
gonna be a lot, yeah.
going
This is the demon possessed tarot that he did before that was really great. And
Yeah.
the angel invoking one is like the new good version of that. But he
Hmm.
went to I think a bunch of libraries and museums in Europe to research kind of like the proper angelic seals and stuff like that.
Make
Yeah.
sure all of his glyphs and serifs were where they should be.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the seraphim and all that. It's very good.
It's
So-
cool. I like the idea from a tarot deck. They actually mentioned in the campaign, not just reading your future, but the angels alter the future. Because you had talked about spells, and it's like, how exactly is that going to work? This idea that like I'm not just going to be like, oh, this is what's going to happen. That's your life now. It's the potential to kind of direct it a little bit more, which I like better. The idea of like,
I just
Like
love
having
tarot
grown
and
up in the
symbols.
80s during the Satanic Panic, like the idea of tarot cards still scares me just a little bit. Like, really, they can change things, and I believe it. You know, like, oh yeah, that'll turn me evil. Yeah, let's do it.
I really
Okay,
just deeply love the symbolism of tarot. It's great. It's wonderful.
What else we got?
We have Rosenstrasse, which is a historical storytelling role-playing game.
And
which
not
I-
a Shakespearean character.
Correct. Which I believe is for exactly 4 players and 1 facilitator or GM. And the players all play different specific characters who are in relationships with each other. And every relationship has a Jewish German and an Aryan German who are in a mixed relationship. And it's all about the struggles that they have, I think, from 1933 to 1943, that ultimately culminates in a big march and protest led by women in Germany about that situation. So, like, this seems to be an incredibly, like, personal, moving,
Yeah.
powerful, like, historical and educational RPG. So if you're the kind of person who wants to use an RPG or a game to explore some of those themes or explore what the stresses and highs and lows of relationships would be, that's something to check out. Like, all the reviews are hugely glowing for it.
I imagine it's really beautiful, but for me personally,
Very, very heavy game.
yeah, it's very, very heavy. It's also, like I said earlier, it's Holocaust adjacent.
yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and that, it's difficult for some
Yeah.
sensitive people to get through. It might not be your game, but if it
Yeah.
is, I bet you'll have an experience that you'll never forget.
Oh, yeah.
Are there a lot of? I don't actually know like how many historical RPGs. Like I imagine that there's quite a few indie, but like personally, I don't know about that many that really.
There's different ones that have touched on it in different ways, I think.
Yeah.
Like there's Night Witches, which was a Powered by the Apocalypse game where you played members of an all-female bomber squadron fielded by the
Yes.
Russians. And
Yeah,
you had
right.
to deal with the sexism and oppression of the era, basically, and survive the war. It was very, very exciting game. A lot of people love it a lot. I know that Wraith the Oblivion dealt with the Holocaust directly, had a whole supplement about
Yes, it did.
what that looks like when you have that kind of thing happen and you're supposed to be playing a game about ghosts.
Yeah.
Like it was a very, very harrowing kind of book. So different games have touched on it. There's been some board games that have touched on it.
Yeah.
It's always a very delicate issue.
Yeah.
And it's always, to me, very interesting to see when people try to take these really huge historical elements and create a game that will maybe allow people to experience it a little more than they would if they were to just read about it in the textbook.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, if you're going to be playing role-playing games that involve things like racism and sexism, a lot of people don't play games to deal with those things, or to specifically to not deal with those things.
Yeah.
So again, it's viewer discretion advice. This might not be your game, but if it is, it may change you in a really, really positive way.
Yeah.
Speaking of changing you in a positive way,
Nice.
this
Go
game
on
is
fire, Derek.
There.
this game is ridiculous. It's Lifts, Ultimate Pump Edition.
That's
Okay.
oh man.
I've been waiting for this.
This is the transition point, right? This is where we
it.
go from.
This is the RPG I've been waiting for because I feel like it's finally going to get me into shape.
We're going
It's
from
not.
There.
lighthearted to really lighthearted now.
Yeah. Right.
So Lifts is
Dark Night of the
a
Soul.
role-playing game where all of your task resolution is physical exercise.
Right.
More importantly, it is themed off of a ridiculous parody of Rifts, the role-playing game. So, I mean, that summary.
Here's an
gets you, then you're
example.
in.
So the GM character, who is called the Muscle Master in this game, leads his players, who are called Muscle Marines, and he basically tells them the story, just like you do in any role-playing game. The difference is there's no dice involved or cards or anything like that. If you are arguing with your Muscle Master about an outcome of something that he says happened, all you have to do is beat him in a game of who could do the most sit-ups or push-ups or whatever.
Well, this was the thing that got to me. Are you actually doing the physical thing?
Yes.
Well, no, because
Yeah.
it said that you don't have to, 'cause to make it accessible, so it's
but
like,
it does acknowledge that not everybody's going to be capable of doing all these things,
Yeah.
or comfortable doing them all.
Yeah.
So I think it acknowledges that, but the core premise of the joke is that you go do it.
that you will do.
But I think the core premise of your statement is that it's a joke.
There-
That's what disturbs me
But here's
about
the
it.
thing. I hear this game, and the first thing I thought was, I want Kristen to be my muscle master in this game. She would be hilarious. She'd be like, you drop and give me 20 right now. You
I
wanna
think
do
the
those
rule is it
things?"
has to be the strongest person who is the muscle master.
Which would be Kristen.
So you have to have the tournament to figure out who is the muscle master, and then you're tired and you take a nap.
We already know who the muscle
Round
master is.
robin arm wrestling.
Kristen's all about
Only
inner
way to
guidance
go.
and yoga and working out and eating healthy. This is how I get into shape. We were at a wedding, and I hadn't put any vegetables on my plate yet, and she was like, "You grab the asparagus now."
Well,
and put 'em
asparagus
on
is
your
really
veggies,"
good
and I
for
was
you.
like, "All right, fine."
Yeah, it is really good for you. I don't know what you were thinking.
Everyone knows I was a former Marine too, Mike.
Oh yeah, also
Ah,
that's
see?
true. Also, she's a former Marine.
So even
Yeah.
though she is a muscle marine, she would very obviously be
She
the
would
muscle master.
Yeah.
Well, there are 4 days left on Lifts, the Ultimate
Yep.
Pump Edition.
Get it? We can play it here, right?
No, you cannot. I will have a heart attack and die.
So, to again ping pong around themes and moods, there's also the Great American Novel, a role playing game.
I
So-
feel like I have friends that would absolutely play this game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I would never want to play any game with them
Yep.
again.
No.
Oh gosh.
If you wanted your RPG to be Great Gatsby, Grapes of Wrath, anything like that, Old Man in the Sea, if you really wanted to kind of play in that zone, here is the RPG that is designed for that.
So it's a role playing game where you sit around a table and talk about how great white men are.
Yeah.
There.
Because we don't have enough of those. We don't have enough. But apparently it has different modes that allow you to kind of go for a literary story, a realistic story, or like an Americana story.
Right, yeah, good.
So maybe, if you're not a white dude, you can use this to explore the American experience that has been underrepresented in our literary tradition.
Wow, you just flipped that right around on me.
There you
And
There you go.
and now I'll try that game out. I mean,
Speaking of underrepresented groups,
Yes?
wait, really?
werewolves.
Amen.
I was waiting for you guys to be like, wait, what is he gonna do?
So,
Yes, the lycanthrope community.
Great American Novel.
As a representative of the
days
lycanthrope
left.
community, I would like to.
And to move on, now we have a new game, Bite Me, a game of werewolf pack dynamics. So this has 6 days left, and it is not only powered by the apocalypse,
Which, again, easy to play, plenty of playbooks to choose from.
but it is definitely a game that anybody who likes Werewolf the Apocalypse, no relation, should play.
Right. It's also a game. Anybody who likes urban fantasy or watching Supernatural on the regular. This is kind of the other side of Monster of the Week, where you get to play the pack and have to deal with that family dynamic of what it's like to be a werewolf.
So it is all about the family dynamic. So it's you have a pack. I think the thrust of this game is you are a member of a messy and emotionally unstable family.
Wait, I'm part of that anyway.
Yeah, is anyone not?
Now you can add some blood and
Old school Roseanne is what I'm thinking.
So you play through that, and the game is about when do you freak out in rage? Who do you murder? Who do you protect? How is that part of your family? What do you? That's the interesting dynamic that game wants to explore. So it seems really neat that it's very laser focused on that aspect of the pack dynamics in a werewolf game.
You're murdering the people in your family, or someone who's attacking your family?
Probably not.
But maybe mutilating. I see that's another one of the actions. You might mutilate someone.
Well,
Entirely possible.
In your...
If you're a werewolf, you probably heal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. It's just temporary mutilation.
Yeah.
Just like a little bit of mutilation.
A little mutilation between family.
Just send a message.
Yeah.
Just send in a message.
All families fight. Some just do it with teeth and claws.
So, other games exist in Kickstarter as well.
Stop.
Yes. So not just RPGs. We have Paulo Moore's Blitzkrieg board game, and this one promised to play World War II in 20 minutes.
In 20 minutes.
That is a
I think anyone who's ever played a world map conquest game, like
Axis and Allies.
yeah,
or
Risk.
Yeah.
But
A lot of Risk players would like to have a conversation with you as a
I
designer.
think the way that they're doing this is you're not playing the entirety of World War II. You're playing
gotta take way longer
specific,
than
you're playing specific battles. So I think you can kind of string them together. But it has a lot of the components that a very traditional war game would have. You have lots of little cardboard chits.
Yeah.
There's a picture of a tank. There's a number on it. That kind of stuff. But the board is much more abstracted.
Yeah.
So it seems like it accelerates that. You use some of the components. You get familiar with some of the concepts. But it does seem to be designed to be an entry game that you could use to bring your friends into wargaming by playing fairly quickly and fairly simply.
Join us.
There. So 20 minutes. I can't play Cat Lady in 20 minutes. Okay. So.
Well, maybe if you focus on this, you can get through World War
There
II.
you
in
go.
20. So that has 6 days left. Another board game with 6 days left that is absolutely gorgeous.
Yes.
Is Iwari, and that is a territory control, kind of territory dominance game. They described it as abstract, but I think the theme is actually fairly strong enough that I would still just call it maybe semi-abstract-ish at most.
And it was like you were talking about some of the mechanics of it, where a lot of abstract games are just super punishing and like lose more once you get behind. Like you're like, oh, there's nothing I can do. But some of the things you were mentioning about it is like, I'm not a huge fan of abstract games, but this one actually looks really cool.
Yeah, the scoring was very interesting. I'm not an expert in this game at all. We watched some of the previews, but we haven't had a chance to play it yet. But the scoring was neat because it seems like you want to control territories by having the most in that territory. But you don't want to dominate that territory so much that you fill it up with just your pieces, or almost but just your pieces, because you'll score a zone for all the pieces in the zone, but the person who has the second as many pieces in the zone will score points for however many pieces the biggest player had. So if we have like a space of 6 and I've got 5 of them and Mike has 1, then I'll score 6 points and he'll score 5 points, and I spent 5 pieces to get that, but he spent 1.
Yeah.
So there seems to be an
really
interesting
neat
dynamic of you're spreading across the board, you're building kind of trade networks, and you're building totems, and you're doing all this, trying to balance your presence across the whole board to get the most score. And the art was just gorgeous.
Yeah,
That's rad.
We took a look at the map before the show. And
Yeah.
It's really, really good.
Great
looking.
style.
So speaking of really gorgeous art, there's also Paladins of the West Kingdom. Enjoying art? Judging me. Paladins of the West Kingdom seems to be like the second game in a West Kingdom series. But this is the same company that did Raiders of the North Sea,
Raiders, yeah.
Explorers of the North Sea. So if folks are familiar with that art, which I would kind of describe as like an indie comic book, very personal, almost caricature kind of thing, really, really neat and kind of expressive art that pulls you in. And pulls you into what looks to be a very, very deep Euro game
Yeah.
of drafting workers, role selection. There's a big board with a lot of spots on it. So it seems like a very traditional, complicated Euro game with this very nice art put on top of it, too.
I will say that is one thing. Like, I've seen the game in mocks tons of times. And for the box size, it's on the smaller size for box, like for a Euro size.
That's the Raiders of the North Sea, you think?
Yeah, for those. And then it's also, like, characters on the front. So it's not this, like, trains through the countryside. It's got, like, Vikings on the front. And then, like, a really cool scene to it. So it's one that I hadn't necessarily put together with this, but from what I've heard people playing these games is that they are using the mechanics in a really interesting way, even for the worker drafting and action selection. They're doing it different than a lot of other games do.
Yep. So it seems like if you want a Euro game with kind of an interesting twist and maybe a little bit more of a vibrant theme, then check this one out. And it's got 6 days left. And then finally,
here we go.
You ready?
Yeah.
This is it.
Red Dragon Inn Smorgasbox.
Smorgasbox. It doesn't even need a pun.
It doesn't even need a pun.
There's no need for a pun in this.
So it's a great name to begin with. What is the Smorgasbox? What's Red Dragon Inn? I mean, I know.
Oh, Red Dragon Inn is a great game where you play a character who is an adventurer, and you come into a bar with your adventuring party, and you've got all your loot from the dungeon that you just sacked, and then you start drinking and gambling until you either pass out drunk or run out of money.
I've seen your shows and movies about that. I've seen those movies.
We did it first. But yeah, that's the concept of the game. You pick your class, and you've got your special character that has special abilities.
I love it.
Right, because there's some like that don't get drunk as fast.
Right, I play usually an elven drunken master monk.
Ooh.
He's really fun to play.
Yeah.
And there's also the first mate for the pirate set, and his whole thing is I'm not gambling. No, I'm not drinking. I have to keep everybody in line.
Oh,
like they all have special abilities.
Yeah.
Well, so it seems to me like Red Dragon Inn is kind of in that same category that Munchkin is, where it's a very fun kind of party game element. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of trying to get someone else to drink more.
Yep.
They're trying to get you to drink more.
And there's so many characters, the game can always be different, even if you play with the same four guys over and over again.
So the Smorgasbox.
But now there's more.
Yeah, now we've got at least one more character, right?
So the Smorgasbox was kind of a collection of a bunch of different things. There's a new character. There's a new mechanic with gambling. Apparently, there's the automated player to make the 2-player variant a little more exciting by adding a 3rd player.
Wait, you're saying the automated player? His name is Otto, and how do you spell that?
A-O-T-T-O.
Oh, okay. Well, his name.
No, O-T-T-O.
O-T-T-O.
I can't even spell.
Automated is Otto. I think that's pretty clever.
All right. So it also
Continue.
has fancy metal components.
Ooh.
There's a bunch of
Wait, does
what?
Otto have metal components? Like
No,
you
I
could
think
build?
he's made of wood. I think he looks like a
So
beer
he's a
barrel
duck?
or something like that.
Oh.
Yeah, he floats in water like that. There's a bunch of new promo cards, which I think is another thing that Red Dragon Inn is kind of famous for, of having all these promo cards in different places that you can grab. And then a big box in which to store everything.
Everything?
Now, Red Dragon Inn has put out a couple of big boxes in the past.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, will those big boxes fit into my Smorgasbox?
This is the big box.
Yeah.
The big
biggest
box to
box.
end all big boxes.
Is it like a box of
my.
holding? Can I get this box into my car?
We've already talked about physics today, once.
This is the thing is, in this big box, fake Tifa can fit in. That's how big the new big box is.
Is this? Are we going to be messing with physics in order to fit things into?
Maybe.
Is that a problem? Are you afraid of messing with physics? For
I-
the sake of Red
Are
Dragon
you
Inn?
not a good Tetriser?
I'm a great Tetriser. I love Tetris.
That's not really a word. A Tetrisist?
Tetrisist.
Right.
Yeah, I
How
believe
many
that's
days
the
left?
technical term.
6 days left on that one. All right.
If you love Red Dragon Inn, you're going to buy it anyway.
I'm thinking I might actually, because I enjoy
I've never
listening to
even
Don't
played
Know
it.
Any-
I want to though.
And if you ever want to play Red
No.
Dragon Inn and don't have it, I got a whole bunch of it.
And soon he'll have a bigger box to put it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to end the show a little bit early because we got like 3 minutes. But let's say goodbye. Let's talk about where people can find yous on the internet should they choose to look you up.
Frequent Beef.
Frequent Beef.
Frequent Beef, very memorable. I'm at Emma Larkins. On Twitter is my big space where I do stuff. Also on Twitch, same great name, same great channel. I'm doing some streaming later today. I'll be doing a little bit of Magic the Gathering Arena with Phil, so that should be fun.
All right.
Cool. I'm Christian Doyle. You can find me at Crash Jackson on Twitter. I'm a member of Zombie Orpheus Entertainment. We make fun movies And we've got a Kickstarter that ends today
Ooh.
for Strowlers.
Strowlers.
Looks like we're going to make it, but come and support it. We tell great stories, and sometimes we even make you laugh. We'll also be at Emerald City Comic Con all day and all weekend, in fact. But our show on Sci-Fi Wire is at 4 p.m. Pacific.
So that's streamed online, I think?
Yes, it is.
Sweet.
I was
Great.
streamed online. I am at the Mike Robles, both on Twitch and on Twitter. And I will also be at Emerald City Comic Con the weekend. I have a panel on Sunday called Unnecessary Debates. We're going to debate things like who would be a better DJ, Gargamel or the Purple Pie Man of Porcupine Peak. Like, really dumb things that shouldn't be an issue. And it's just a bunch of people trying to, like, the one of them will take a side and say, no, this person will be the better DJ.
I feel like
I love
Purple
it.
Pieman dresses
Yeah.
more like a DJ.
Right? So there you go. You can catch me on Twitter. I'll be talking about it. I don't think that one will be streamed. And if it will, I'll throw the link out on my Twitter. So there you go. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See ya.